stand as a framework to encompass all the practices that we are facing at the moment. The other approach, which is sociocultural in nature, is the one that recognizes the new literacy practices and new social practices which are really going on, whether in the informal context or the formal educational context, and the relationship between the informal literacy practices and the formal schooling, which takes place in real classrooms. Under this approach, we can have new approaches to literacy as follows. Of course, as a result of the new social practices and new literacy practices and the dominant new technologies. First of all, the first approach I'm going to tackle is the new literacy studies. It's a generation of researchers who began 20 years ago approximately, and tried to position themselves based on the social practices which are dominant at that time, and they expressed complete reluctance to the dominant cognitive approach to literacy. Examples of those people are Brian Street, with whom I have been in touch for a long time. He did some research in Iran, and he wrote many books about the literacies and the kind of literacy that he saw there, which he called maktab literacy or office literacies. And another example is Barton and Hamilton, 1998, who did something also, local practices in the University of Lancaster. And they tried to identify the specific practices which can be called literacies in this context. So according to this new approach, literacy is not static, and hence language learners to understand, and I highlighted this word in particular, their literacy practice. Because according to the traditional literacy approach, nothing can be included in physical education context. Multiliteracy is another approach and might be similar, but here they try to turn the word literacy and English as singular word into a multiple word or into a plural word in order to encompass all the developments taking place in the present time. It doesn't include ICT only, but it includes all the linguistic, textual, audio, and visual modules or modes which are going on during everyday interactions. And this concept was devised by the New London Group in 1996. Multimodal literacy, encompassing all the different ways in which meaning can be created and communicated in the world today. And I think Jasmine, our colleague, talked about this yesterday, and it was an interesting talk about multimodal literacy. This is represented by Jewett and Chris in 2003. Electronic literacy approach to network-based language teaching, which is represented by Schitzer and Wordsworth in the US in 2000, is a very modern approach to literacy, which recognizes social practices, and at the same time, it suggests that there is an interactional relationship between the web and the language, and that in the same way as ICT or the web can be used as a tool for teaching English language, also the language itself, or the English language, should be regarded as a tool for teaching about ICT. So this interactive relationship is creating what we can call new literacy practices, in which case we cannot identify exactly which is helping or fostering which, because both of them are interdependent on each other. And they assume that becoming literate is more than learning how to decode and write letters and words. Writing letters and words does not, nowadays, does not mean that I am literate. According to today's measures mean literacy, or being literate means, for example, being able to evaluate websites, being able to evaluate information and communicate knowledge to others, being able to write a critical comment on something. So decoding information is not type of literacy that we are after nowadays as far as language learning is concerned. And the last approach, and this is where I'm coming from, is the new literacies perspective. And this was devised by the new literacies research team at the University of Connecticut in the US. They focus mainly on reading comprehension or online reading comprehension as a new form of language practices, and they try to identify the new reading skills which are needed in online reading. And they argued that online reading is completely different from offline reading, and we cannot judge that the same person who is very skilled at reading books will be also skilled at online reading. The case is different, and the other way around. We cannot assume that those who can read efficiently online are successful students. Some students, according to research by Koiru in 2004, proved that those excellent students who could write or could read efficiently offline or read paper-based material were not good at reading online. And the other way around, some students excelled in reading online